Alright, what's up guys, it's Morris, and today's a little bit different of a video. As some of you know, I went to Antarctica for work about a year and a half ago, I think it is. I left in October of 2023 and got back in, I think, March of 2024. And I told you guys that I would make a video kind of describing my experience, I guess, and I just kind of never did. So I figured now is as good a time of any to do that. While I was away, I took a hiatus from recording, basically, from making videos, obviously because I was at the South Pole. But I did manage to get 3 videos uploaded, just a little update video. This was in January of 2024. An X-Toll 3 reaction in Antarctica with penguins in the background, you can see there. And then another reaction video to Cowabunga Surf's Team Taj from the South Pole, like the actual South Pole. So I have some pictures of the setup and stuff when I was doing those things. And I also have a bunch of pictures that I want to go through and kind of describe where it was and what I was doing for work and all that kind of stuff. We'll just start with going through pictures and I'll just kind of give some backstory to each one. I know some people were really confused. They thought I was going to Alaska or they thought I was just delusional. And it is insane. It's a crazy experience to just go to the South Pole. Not many people can say they did that. And then a lot of other people think that there's an ice wall and that they brainwashed me. And that might be true. I don't know. But the pictures I have give me different memories. Maybe they used AI and implanted that shit onto my phone. I don't know. It's just random pictures, random order. This is on top of Mount... Oh, what mountain is this? I can't even remember the mountain. This is McMurdo Station over here. And if you walk on over, this is a little mountain that people hike. People hike it like 50-something times to do a marathon. I did it like 3 times. And it's super sketchy. It's really sketchy getting up the side of this thing. I mean, the temperature most of the time, like when I first got to Antarctica at McMurdo Station, the temperature was like -20 to -40 Fahrenheit. And then during summer, so October, maybe some of November, it was super cold. Then December, January, February, it's the Austral summer. So Australian summer, basically, because that's the side of the planet we're on. So if you zoom all the way up, wow. Wow, you got New Zealand here, and that was actually where I started. So I flew basically from Virginia to Chicago over here, and then flew all the way to New Zealand, which was about 17 hours just from Chicago to New Zealand. In the middle seat, man. Dude, I was in the middle seat between 2 really nice older people, but 17 hours in the middle seat sucks. Took a trip to New Zealand and they paid per diem, put us in a hotel, and basically got to train and then just vacation for 2 weeks. So it was really cool. And then from New Zealand, we waited for a flight that was mechanically good enough and environmentally good enough. So if the weather was permitting, then we finally flew down to McMurdo. But yeah, we're over on the Australian side of the world, so we had summer. But yeah, the winter months in Pennsylvania, the United States, were actually summer months in McMurdo Station. During summer, it was like, you know, it got up to 30 degrees, 40 degrees, and it wasn't bad, actually. And then right before I left, we got one sunset because it was bright the entire time I was there. Again, because you're at the bottom of the planet, so it's bright for 6 months, dark for 6 months, something like that. So I was there during summer, so it was just bright the whole time. Dude, you walk out of the bar on station and you gotta put your sunglasses on. It's crazy shit. Dude, there's so much information to go over. I'm just remembering so many things, all the questions that people might have. But yeah, you'll see that McMurdo is a pretty large station. I mean, you have the main hub, building 155, where they have the cafeteria, offices, all that kind of stuff. Some housing, some lodging. And then this is all lodging over here. I actually stayed in building 201. And I believe it was this one. And then you have the Ice Stock Plaza, which since it warms up in January, they actually have a New Year's party outside. So a bunch of people, like some of the 800 people that live there during summer season, play instruments and they form bands and get together and play on stage. It's a huge, not huge, it's like probably a couple hundred people festival. Like they have coffee and Baileys that they mix together. They have random music sets and stuff, mosh pits, all that kind of stuff. Maybe less mosh pits. I did actually go to a rock show at one of the bars. You know, a band played a bunch of covers of rock, and there were crowd surfers and mosh pits. It was pretty awesome. Also, over here, you take this little road, the Williefield Road, over, and you have Scott Base. This is the New Zealand base. They have, I think, like 200, 300 people on station during summer, and also during the winter months, this whole bay freezes over, and they actually run an airfield out of here. Yeah, Williefield, right here. Williefield actually isn't on water. This runs, I believe, year-round, but then they have Phoenix Airfield somewhere in here. that is on the bay, the frozen bay. That's where I flew in. And we have some more pictures. This is out at LDB, long duration balloon. This is a NASA project that they also run out on this bay. They take a big ass telescope and they look at Antarctica. This is actually the LDB thing. This $40 million, they fly it up and with hot air balloons, weather balloons, and then it just kind of deflates and this thing crashes and they send a team out to try to find it. We were actually out there running some cable harnesses around, so I actually have a picture of that somewhere. Yeah, I'm up in the bucket just running cables. This actually got to like negative 26 degrees. I was out there for like 3 hours running cables. That's cold. That was coldish. Then here's another picture of me up there at a different part. Sorry I'm jumping around a lot. Dude, it was a year ago, so some of the memories are a little jumbled, and I'm just reliving this as I'm going. So here we have the United States Antarctic Program passenger terminal. This is where we hopped on the plane in New Zealand. There were so many processes to get there, then to get to Antarctica. Then once we got to Antarctica, there was more processes, and then leaving was a process. It was about like, just flights was about 30 hours each way. And then a couple days of training and sitting through PowerPoints and stuff. And this is a plane I flew on to get there in C-130. This is the inside of that plane. I might have to blur some faces. I'm not sure. It was about a 5-hour flight. Oh, Jesus Christ. That's loud, Duncan. So this is actually when I landed in Antarctica. Dude, they got heavy machines just going and grabbing supplies and hauling them back to station. I remember when I hopped off that plane, the first thought, and I vocally said it because it was just insane, was just, holy shit. Dude, you step off this plane and it's just flat white, and then 30 miles in the distance, there's just mountains. And you realize that you're super far from home, for one. And you're the furthest from civilization you'll ever be. On top of that, when I got to South Pole Station, that was another layer. That's 800 more miles away from any civilization. So this is the view outside my building, building 201, out towards, there's a pier out there. So you go on over here. My building's here, and I was looking out towards here, Hut Point. So Hut Point is actually the first ever landmark of Antarctica. What the hell was his name? I can't remember. That feels like a disservice. But you can see Hut Point out there way in the distance. There's actually a frozen seal that died like 80 years ago that is just preserved there. But the group that came out here, their goal was to get to the South Pole. And they did a lot of cocaine and whiskey to get there. Little factoid. But they started here and then took a trip to the South Pole, died out there, and that's it. Dude, they were on their way to Antarctica and realized, maybe we should pick up some like housing, maybe get a prefabbed hut to stay in while we're there. So they picked it up in Australia. It's an outback hut, so it's made to wick heat out, which you don't really want in Antarctica, so they ended up just using it as storage. They tried boarding it up and kind of insulating it a little bit, and it didn't work. It was colder in the hut than it was outside, so that was cool. Good job, guys. And then this is driving out in one of the pickup trucks to probably Willie Field or Phoenix Airfield or LDB, something like that. This is actually the pad where a nuclear reactor used to be, and it started leaking, so they got rid of it, which is good stuff. Then you can see out to like Willie Field and everything. I don't know if Willie Field is in the frame of this, but dude, you can see a footpath. People would just go on hikes out on the bay. And then this is McMurdo. You can see. So here, where am I? Where'd I go? Yep, right here. So this is that platform, I believe. Then over this ledge, there's a bunch of like old vehicles and stuff. But you can see I'm looking over. Wow. Actually, over here in the distance, this is owned by New Zealand. It's like a satellite dish that it's just a dome to protect it from the elements. And we actually worked on a lot of that stuff. I was down there, I should probably tell you what I was down there as. I was down there as a telecommunications technician. So I'm a fiber splicer in the real world, and they have fiber and copper telecommunications systems between buildings and all that stuff for local data. They have Starlink down there. They need telecommunications stuff for some of the experiments they do at South Pole and, on station. So there's a lot of need for cable guys. And one of the cooler things, actually, we have a fiber that we lease from New Zealand, which, sounds far, but it's really close. And it's only a couple 1,000-foot cable, and we were troubleshooting why it didn't work. So that was pretty cool. I got to work with some of the New Zealand guys. I lost the pictures with them on my phone. This is just a camera that you can view. I can't remember the website, but there's a camera that you can just see McMurdo Station. It's a live feed, and it wasn't working, so we went up and fixed it. Oh, seals! Seal poop! This is when the seals were having babies. Oh yeah, it's gross, but it's really cool to see. And this is, oh yeah, this is right next to building 155. So I was standing right here looking this way when I took the picture. Bam, there's a church down there. Another picture, McMurdo Station, Antarctica, looking out at Hut Point. There's some people out there. And this is out at LDB, or maybe this is one of the airfields. This might be Willie Airfield. This is LDB. That's my dad. So I was actually down there with my dad, which is really cool. You definitely catch some shit for that. And you also have people that I made friends just because my dad was there, which was really cool. And it was cool I lived with him and like dormed with him and worked with him for 6 months. And then here we got a little truck driving out into the wilderness. Just thought it was a sweet picture. Got mountains in the background and stuff. There's that New Zealand dome again. Dude, look, this shit looks fake, man. Oh my God. We got on a slow day, we got to go out and help them place flags for the airplanes flying in. So you have to take snowmobiles out on the runway, the ice runway, to place these flags. And that was badass. I got to say I rode a snowmobile out in Antarctica. Fun fact. There's a National Dodgeball Association, and one of the guys that worked there was a part of that association, and he messaged him saying, hey, can we form like an Antarctic Dodgeball Association and be actually on the official list for dodgeball federations or something like that? I don't know. Yeah, they said sure. So I was a part of the Antarctic Dodgeball Federation or whatever it's called. An actual dodgeball league, so we played a couple games of dodgeball. Yeah, my firefighter friend Terrence actually took these pictures. He's a really good photographer, actually. Here's Ice Stock. Woohoo! Got hella people out there. Penguins. This is when the weather was a little shitty, but I was out for work and there was just a huddle of penguins. I wish I had videos of them, but when they're walking around, they're just slipping and sliding. They are klutzes, dude. More penguins. And then here, we had a fiber going from, there's an ice pier. This is where boats come in to drop supplies, and I think the Coast Guard stops here for a little while. All sorts of stuff. Just ships in and out. And they had a fiber going from, you know, some of the huts. This is actually, the fire station is right here. Or right here. The hospital's here. Which building am I? Oh, geez, I can't remember. Yeah, I was right here. This is where the fire department is, and we were in a room on the second floor. But we had a fiber going out, whoop, somewhere. There's a node, like right here or right here. A node is basically where a bunch of fibers meet up and pushes in different directions to supply different buildings with fiber or some sort of data. So this fiber went out and then looped around here and then boom, ended up at the ice pier. And it was broken somewhere and we didn't know where or why. So I think we found it like right here in a cable tray. So there's just metal trays that go all over station, lay cables in, and they get from point A to point B. They actually had a splice enclosure because the cable wasn't long enough. So this is a splice case or enclosure. Fibers come in, like the cables come in, open up, and you have your little fibers. So I was looking around in there and noticed that one of the cables was just kinked. So I had to open it up and basically rebuild the case. So another cool thing, I get to say I built a fiber case in Antarctica. So this is a splice machine. It's fibers, little glass tubes, and you cleave them real clean them up with alcohol, and then set them in the machine, and it fuses them together at like 700 degrees. It like melts the glass together. There's a lot of stuff I'm kind of glossing over because trying to explain in super fine detail would take forever. There's a selfie. There's the case. These are the cables coming in, the tubes, and then the tubes open up, and these are individual fibers. Here's another plane. Here's the LC-130 that I took to the South Pole. The difference between C-130 and it was a C-17 that I took to Antarctica. Different types of airplanes, but LC-130, the L in there is it stands for skis. I forget what the L means, but this is on skis instead of wheels, just so it can land at the South Pole and stuff. Oh, this is another McMurdo station picture. Here we go. Here's South Pole Station, baby. And if you look on Google Maps, Google Earth, it doesn't show up, and that's what makes people think there's an ice wall or some weather controlling equipment down there. I don't know. I had some scientist friends down there, and all of them seemed like normal people to me. So yeah, I was down here building. They had a couple huts that they wanted to run fiber to, so I just built some panels and spliced fiber panels into those buildings. So I was there for about 2 weeks. And one thing that you don't really understand until you're there is that altitude is fucked up. You get there, and I think the actual altitude is like 8,000 feet or something, which doesn't seem bad. Shit, Colorado, places in, I think Denver's higher than 8,000 feet. The weird thing about this is you can be sitting in the cafeteria, and you can be looking at this altimeter, it tells you the altitude at the moment on station, and while you're sitting eating lunch, it can go from 8,000 feet to 12,000 feet, back down to 10,000 feet, just because of the air pressure at the South Pole, and it's so fucked up. If you try to do any more than bare minimum, you're getting a crippling migraine for a day. Trust me, I know, it happened to me. And they give you altitude medicine and stuff like that, and I was on like day 3 of the altitude medicine, and I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Nope. You got to give yourself some time. So here's the ceremonial South Pole. This is where the South Pole was when they first got there. But with, I think the glacier that the station's on drifts. So the actual geological South Pole changes like 100 feet a year. Or like, I forget how many feet a year, but it changes. And this is the actual geographic South Pole. They go out every year and mark the new one. This is looking from the main building of the South Pole Station out into the field. While I was here, again, this is peak summer. Dude, it was like negative 30 degrees the entire time I was there, with a wind chill of like negative 40, negative 50. Oh, this is actually off station at the South Pole. Wow. So the backstory behind this one, bam, you can see the South Pole Station right there. The story behind this one, they have an experiment called the Ice Cube, or maybe this one's the espresso experiment, and they detect seismic activity. And with fiber optics, you can, the fiber detects the vibrations, seismic vibrations, and it comes up on equipment. So they have fiber running off station about like 5 miles to a little hut. And we were just troubleshooting and testing it and stuff. So we drove out on snowmobiles, to this hut. And this is a surreal feeling. Because again, you're at McMurdo, you're 2,000 miles away from civilization. You're at the South Pole Station, you're 800 miles from McMurdo. You're here, you're 5 miles away from the most desolate place on the planet. So yeah, it's super fucked. Just flat white forever. And they actually have a crew that hauls out fuel and like materials and stuff by sleds, by tractor. So they're going 800 miles by tractor, and it takes them like 45 days to get there and then 45 more to get back. Dude, those guys are badass. Yeah, so some of my science friends, let us take some tours of some of the satellites and telescopes they use for these experiments. It's mainly astrophysics. They look up at the stars and stuff. Man, I just thought of the Interstellar quote. We used to look up and wonder about our place in the stars. Now we just look down and worry about our place in the dirt. Oh, I love that guy, Matthew McConaughey. But yeah, this is one of the telescopes that my friend worked on.
This pole right here is the size.
Yeah, and she's explaining it to us.
It comes around and we just lower it right into here.
Dude. It's so fucking cool, man. It's so cool. Oh, and then this is a cowabunga reaction video. You can see I'm right here. Yeah, the guy I was working with, Ethan, what a great dude. I miss that guy. But I asked him, like, man, I want to make this video, but I'll feel real weird hauling stuff out to record this video when everyone in the cafeteria can see me. And he was like, dude, people do weird shit here all the time. No one's gonna care. So I was like, okay. So he helped me haul a box of my laptop out, and I recorded this reaction video. I went out and recorded this. It was like negative 35 degrees or something, and the laptop battery barely made it. By the time I got it back inside, the laptop battery was just cooked. Then here's another selfie of it. Oh, this, they call it the 300 Club, the 200 Club, 300 Club. You can only actually do it in winter, but people still do it in summer. Basically, you wait for it to get negative 100 degrees out, and then you set the sauna to 200 degrees. So we had the sauna set to like 200. It was like negative 40 out. But you basically just get in shorts and shoes, sit in the sauna, work up a sweat, and then run out around the South Pole Station. Or run out around the South Pole. So we did that twice. One of my Italian science friends. She actually has Instagram and stuff, but I'm not gonna dox her here. But she's a pretty well-known, like, younger scientist in the field. Very sweet person. But we went out and did that together. And then this is, okay, I put this picture in here to diffuse all the ice wall claims. This is a flight from McMurdo Station to the South Pole. Looked out the window, it's just mountains forever. Just mountains, no ice wall. That I saw, anyway. Oh yeah, this is a helicopter flying in. Oh yeah. Hell yeah, buddy. That's badass. More penguins. Hey, buddy. Oh, dude, this is when the bay cleared up. and it was a little warmer out. I was on a beach in Antarctica. Wow. That's so serene, dude. This is recording the X-Toll 3 reaction with penguins in the background. Here's the X-Toll 3 reaction. This was under building 155. This is David, my coworker that I was down there with. And there was a secret tunnel. And there was demonic Elmo. That was something. This is the first sunset I saw after 5 months. This is the hut on South Pole Station where they do the seismic stuff. So you go 5 miles off station and you pull up to this plywood hatch, open it, and it's a 40-foot ladder just straight down. That shit's crazy, dude. Apparently it didn't start at 40 feet. Apparently you could walk into a door or it was just a hatch and you just drop down in. But then the ice just built up and they just have to keep extending the ladder. This is still at that hut. Some baby seals. Some of my biologist friends. My friends that I made down there, that they researched seals and wildlife. Dude, they're so adorable. They actually had a competition. It was like a March Madness bracket of the cutest seals. Then this is, South Pole. Shirtless Moors. So yeah, dude, there's so much more that I could probably go over. I don't want to make this video too long. I'm trying to compress 6 months of my life down into a short video. I wish I had more videos, but I was too much of a baby. Yeah, my daily life working down there, we worked 9 hours a day, 6 days a week, so 54-hour weeks. My job was pretty laid back. There, some jobs like in the kitchen and stuff suck balls and you don't get paid shit for it. My job, I got paid well and it was pretty laid back. But most of my days were, I'd splice a little bit of fiber here and there, fix phones, did audits for the communication systems around the station. So you're just looking at wires and figuring out, okay, is this supposed to be here? Is it not? Is it working? Is it dead? And then just, general maintenance of the telecommunications, phones, computers, internet. I'm sure there's more I could talk about with this. So if you want to see a part 2, if you want me to try to scrounge up some more pictures, videos, let me know in the comments, leave a like and stuff, and I'll make a part 2 of this, just sitting down and talking about my experience there. If you have any specific questions, feel free to ask, and I can mention that as well. Hopefully that gave you a little insight as to what my life was like in Antarctica. I actually signed the contract to go back down and backed out of it because I wanted to do other stuff. Maybe one day I'll go back down. We'll see. But anyway, yeah, again, if you want to see more of this, let me know. It's been Morse. Have a fantastic day. See you next time.